Another day, another Balkan country's football league featured on the channel. We keep ticking them off. This time it's Bosnia and Herzegovina's first tier, known as Liga 12. Gradski Stadion Banja Luka. Banja Luka is the capital not of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but of Republika Srpska, one of the two autonomous entities that make up the country. The other being Bosnia and Herzegovina, oddly enough. It actually hosted the one and only quote-unquote international match that Republika Srpska competed in as its own entity. Now, of course, if they're good enough, the best players from the region can just play for Bosnia and Herzegovina, the country. Stadion Perica Pero Pavlovic. As you can tell, this is another one of those leagues where big clubs based in cities come up against small clubs based in villages. This one is the latter, of course. The village of Gabela and subsequently the stadium are almost literally a stone's throw from the border with Croatia. Well, 2 kilometers. You'd need a strong wind at your back. Stadion Igmana. This stadium is situated right by the Neretva River, as pretty much everything in this town is, due to the steep mountains that surround it. It's recently had some new seats added to its one and only stand. Unfortunately, there isn't a sheltered seat in the house, but at least they're treated to a rather nice view. Stadion Mokri Dolac. The curving shape of this ground is misleading, as it never actually had a track surrounding the field. I guess they were about to build a track and then realized that football already has running, but with added stuff like kicking and tackling to make it more interesting. Basically what I'm saying is running is bread while football is pizza. So, I've lost my train of thought. Nice stadium though. Gradski Stadion Koševo, also known as the Olympic Stadium because although there's been a field here since '47, the stadium we see today was built prior to the 1984 Winter Olympics. Mainly just the opening and closing ceremonies. There wasn't much ski jumping going on here. It might seem a little surprising that Bosnia hosted an Olympic Games, but of course it was part of the much larger Yugoslavia at the time. As for the design, I like the way the northern and southern stands taper down towards the never eat soggy wheat bix east of the ground. Stadion Luke. This might be the most simplistic stadium in the league, which is saying something. There's a gravel track surrounding the field and there's just one stand, which is uncovered of course. If I tried to point out a positive, well, the air is probably fresh. Actually, they do like their cigarettes in these parts. Stadion Petzara. This would have to be one of the more characterful grounds in the league. Every one of the stands is different from the next. This one has an unusual shape due to room constraints. This one has a little bit of terracing in the corner. And this one here is not a stand. It's a wall of advertising. I think the only brand I recognize there is Nivea, makers of homemade flamethrower fuel canisters. Yeah, I just have to insert a disclaimer here in case there are any kids watching. Any brand of deodorant will work as a flamethrower. You don't have to buy Nivea. Gradski Stadion Tušanje. This is an odd looking ground. It's not often that the only stand with a roof is at an end rather than along the sidelines. The lack of any sort of grandstand over on the eastern side makes it look even more unusual. But I don't think those living in the adjacent apartment buildings are complaining. They get an unobstructed view of the field. Stadion Rodjeni. This ground takes its name from the club's nickname. The fans themselves got to choose it, which is a nice gesture from the club or the city of Mostar. Loosely in celebration of the club's centennial in 2022, they've started work on upgrading the stadium. This stand was actually already built in 2019, but after demolishing an old stand to the south, they are planning on building a new one there. Still a pretty good stadium in its current state. We're staying in Mostar at Stadion pod Bijelim Brijegom, a lopsided stadium with plenty of design quirks. When I say lopsided, it is the loppiest of sides. No ground is loppier. No, but this stand does rise above the rest, and that is mainly due to it being built into a rather large slope. Other features include plenty of stonework about the place, and a nice little garden over here. Gradski Stadion Ugljevic. Gradski just means city in case you were wondering. This ground is situated next to the Janja River, which is much less picturesque than the one we saw earlier. At least this section of it anyway. The stadium itself is no prettier. It's just a basic U-shaped structure and not much else. We're back in Sarajevo at Stadion Grbavica. You can probably see that this was a multi-purpose stadium back in the day, but has since been partially rectangularized. You'd think that this northern stand was a fairly recent addition, but no, it was built in the mid-80s. I suppose they had plans to build another one at the southern end, but you know, their country sort of disintegrated, and the stadium even suffered some damage during the wars that followed, so yeah, I can understand why it didn't get built. It's still one of the better grounds in the country as is.
So there you have it. After careful consideration, I'd have to say that Stadion pod Bijelim Brijegom is my favourite, it is. Purely for its uniqueness. Don't know why I've just started talking like this, but whatever. Consider subscribing if you're new, and as always, thanks for watching. Have a good one.